Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope you're doing okay today. Hey, I want to spend just a few minutes going over these political cartoons from earlier. Remember, it's about balance of power, and I chose these two cartoons because one represents a balance of power between nations, and one represents a balance of power between people. And that's the themes that I wanted you looking at these cartoons with to see if you can interpret them. Now, I didn't really expect you to know a lot about them. Because we really haven't covered them in history yet. But some of you did really, really well. Some of you nailed it. I can tell some of you looked them up, and that's fine. It's fine with me. That's not a problem at all. Others of you gave it your best shot, and some of you are really close, and some of you not so close. But let's just spend a few minutes going over them. Do me a favor. Pause this video, grab your cartoons, and start the video again once you have them. All right, so the first cartoon, the two men arm wrestling. Those two men represent Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier or the leader of the Soviet Union in the 60s, late 50s and 60s, and John F. Kennedy, president of the United States. This is a Cold War cartoon. In other words, that period immediately following World War II up through the end of the space race, up through Ronald Reagan, actually. You had the two world superpowers in the United States and in the Soviet Union who were going after each other, and both of them were competing for the premier power in the world. What we have here is we have them arm wrestling, and if you notice, neither one of them is winning. The hands are straight up, which means it's a virtual stalemate. Both of them are sweating a lot. So the first level show that we have these two countries that are competing closely, and competing with great vigor. I mean, it's both of them are really working very hard. The next thing you see is that they're sitting on bombs. You see the letter H on both of them. They're hydrogen bombs. In other words, the earliest version of our, the second earliest version of atomic weapons. So you have two countries who are competing against each other, both of which who have access to nuclear weapons. And if you look real closely, you can see that the power cord going from Russia's or USSR from their bomb is actually going to the button underneath Kennedy's fingers, and the other is vice versa. So both of them were sitting on H bombs, but the other one controls whether or not their bombs go off or not. And if you notice, neither one of them have pushed a bomb yet. It says a lot about what was going on in the Cold War. So if I were to ask you, is there a balance of power or a perceived balance of power between the USSR and the United States during the Cold War, the answer would be yes, at least according to this cartoon. The second cartoon has to do with people, or really classes of people, the rich versus the poor, or the rich versus the non-rich. In the late 1800s, you had a lot of big companies who were starting what were called company towns. And as they hired people, they required their employees to live in these towns. They provided the housing, they provided the utilities, they set up stores where groceries and personal items would be bought. And these employees' entire lives revolved around these company towns. In this case, you had the situation up in Chicago with this company called the Pullman Rail Car Company. They made fancy cars for railroads. And they owned one of these such company towns. And what started happening over a period of time is they started decreasing the employees' pay, and at the same time not decreasing the cost of living, not decreasing the housing. And a lot of people could not pay for the housing, could not pay for their livelihoods, and not only lost their jobs, but they lost everything. So eventually, the employees of the Pullman rail car went on strike. And this was one of the last type of labor type situations that led to the creation of a lot of the labor laws that we have in our country today. This happened in the late 1890s. We have Pullman. We know that's Pullman because it says Pullman on the sash. You had this obviously lower wage worker who's being screwed, literally and figuratively, by the company. What you can't really see in the picture unless you looked it up, is you see a lot of coins all around the person. It shows that the Pullman Company is squeezing every red cent out of their employees. And on the vice are the words plutocracy. Plutocracy is when somebody's being ruled by the rich. It's ruled by the rich. And it says capitalism. It says monopoly. Monopoly is when one company controls an entire industry. And you have the words wage slavery. So you have the political commentary behind this cartoon is that these large fat cat companies are taking advantage of low dollar labor and not treating them fairly. If I were to ask you, is there a balance of power, an equal balance of power in this picture? The answer should be no, that the wealthy, in this case, are controlling those who are not wealthy. So balance of power. Today, you should have been working on other balance of power type issues, whether that's working with manifest destiny or working with feudalism, depending on the class that you're in. Always be looking for this question of balance of power. Does the balance of power exist? And if it doesn't, who controls the power? All right, guys. Talk to you later. Miss you. Love you. Bye.